Welcome, everybody. I am super excited to be welcoming Alissha today. She is from Nomad Love Lab. So, welcome. So great to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Andre. It's so great to be on and to officially meet you in person here.
Yeah, and we are fellow digital nomads. So, where are you in the world right now?
Let's see. So I am originally from San Francisco, Bay Area, but I'm currently in Rio de Janeiro. Yeah, I relocated here last June. So officially 3 years here in Brazil and 11 and a half years abroad.
Yeah, and we were just talking about how your dog's with you. So, it sounds like you've got a nice base there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been such a transition and such a journey.
Yeah, I'm so curious every time I meet a new nomad. Like, how did you get started into becoming a digital nomad?
Wow. Okay. So it originally started with, I like to call it that I drank the punch. So I had a few friends that were teaching English in Thailand, and I went over to go visit them during May. It was either go to Coachella or go visit some friends in Thailand.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough that while we were there, one of my friends, her coworker, was having a birthday party in Copenhagen, and they invited me. So I was with like 30 English teachers living in Thailand, living their best life. And I remember turning to her while we were on the ferry, and I was like, "What? Like, what's going on with your friends? Like, you guys are all so happy. Like, I thought they might be like on something, honestly." And she's like, "No, like, this is just how we are. Like, this is what it feels like to live a life that you chose and not a life that you're just trying to survive in." Instantly, then I was like, okay, I know what to do. And 3 months later, I was now living abroad. I went to go get my TEFL in Cambodia.
I love that. I was just in Thailand and it's beautiful. I can see why people just won't want to leave there. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
definitely be back for
And that's
sure.
honestly where I started off doing my date coaching and relationship coaching, was by hosting singles events in Koh Samui. Well, you were there at the ground zero.
And yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit more about how you got started with Nomad Love Lab. So it started in Thailand with singles, was it dinners or just kind of what is it, speed dating kind of sessions?
Yeah, so it started off with hosting singles events in Thailand and then in Bali. And then when COVID hit, it like completely derailed my plans. Like Nomad Love Lab was not existing at that time yet. It was just like, let me put on some fun events and see what happens. Just to give some more context, I was going through a really interesting transition of my life, entering out of a pretty toxic relationship. And so I had gone to a breathwork session on Copenhagen for my birthday. Pretty sure my 30th birthday. And yeah, and there I like rediscovered, my purpose here on this cycle on Earth, and everything was identifying the fact that my work was supposed to be aligned with love. And and I was like, okay, but like what does that look like? So I started asking my friends, and they're like, well, you already naturally are our little matchmaker. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been doing that since like middle school. So that's kind of how the idea of just starting to host the singles events came up. Yes.
I'm so excited to chat to you today because talking about love is one of my little hobbies and passion projects too. So when you reached out, I was like, I can't wait to dive into all these questions
Yes.
because whenever I'm in the nomad space, I'm always like, what's happening? Who's with who? What's the love scene happening in this place? I don't know. It's just so interesting to me. So I'm super excited to dive in.
Honestly, it's incredibly fascinating to me as well. Even after, starting to host the singles events and then having COVID hit and me being derailed with those plans, and just, having to then focus on the remote corporate job that I had and was very grateful to have. But I ended up working really high up in that company and was running it. So after
Yeah.
several years of being distracted working for them, I started to really wonder like what my real passions were again. So that's where I was able to like circle back and identify that there really wasn't much support for nomads quite yet. And there
Mm,
certainly weren't enough resources available for us either. So that was more about how I started a research project. I just
okay.
wanted to understand how we were dating before I could fully start providing tools to how to improve our dating life. So that's also how Nomad Lab officially started. Was a survey to understand how we are already, what we're looking for in relationships. Are people monogamous? Is it more polyamory? Do people still want kids? Do you even want to be married? I wanted to understand like what this demographic was actually wanting, and it's been illuminating.
Wow, I am so excited to learn more. I think we are very interesting as nomads when it comes to love and dating. So there's so much to unpack. But one thing that I noticed is people always romanticize traveling and falling in love and, finding your soulmate in this beautiful destination under the Tuscan sun, all that stuff. But, like, what is the reality for nomads dating right now? Is it that romantic kind of vibe that we see on TV, or what is it actually at the moment?
It's definitely a mix of both. The marketing version is, just sunsets and cocktails. The actual version is a lot more heartbreaks and airports than we want to admit. Like most people don't really like to talk about it except amongst like their really close friends. So here's what most people aren't saying out loud. When we live globally, we're not just changing locations, we're also changing our identities. Like every 6 months or so, you get to be someone slightly new. And that's part of the appeal that we love about this lifestyle. But it also means that your dating life is constantly starting over from scratch, whether you want it to or not. Like you have changed. So therefore, your tactics have changed. And you can't build slow with someone when you don't even know where you're going to be in the next 3 months, or same with them. So the poetic version is absolutely real. Connection abroad is intense, it's expansive, it's transformative. I love it. I even have little moments that I call honeymoons. When we think about our parents and like their idea of a honeymoon, we get to experience that in places like Thailand for a weekend with someone we just met. So
That's so fun.
it's so fun, but it also, there's like a huge bag of worms like living underneath all of this. Like there's so many unfinished conversations and so many almost relationships, and that ends up accumulating over time. It really truly does, and it changes how you approach the next relationship, and it changes whether you even just want to stop investing and putting yourself out there at all, because you're either over investing because you're trying to compress what should happen within months into a few weeks or a few days, or you just don't have enough time at all.
We don't like talking about as nomads because you're right, there's that weekend away, it's so great, and then, things might fall apart after that. So, what would you say kind of the main struggles are that nomads specifically are facing in the dating scene?
Yeah. First off, I think the reality is that most nomads need to realize that it requires more emotional maturity than if we were dating back at home, not less. This lifestyle that we're living that's so open and free does not give you a free pass. It actually raises the bar for how dating works for us. We have to be so much more vigilant and proactive and involved. And we can't just blame it on our work like we did before. Like, oh, my night is busy. It's like, well, you have a remote job now. um, but yeah, the struggles I mostly see my clients naming are, of course, time zones and distance and like that practical stuff. But I actually see the struggles I see that actually break up people are much quieter and they don't get talked about. And the first one is novelty habituation. So, for example, when everything in your life is constantly new, ordinary people stop registering in your system. They get kind of boring. So your baseline for what feels exciting keeps escalating.
That
That's
is so true.
yeah.
I can really relate to that one. It's weird, like you don't realize it, but you just get used to things changing and being exciting around you all the time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Our goals keep increasing, our desires, our influences. Like there's so much coming our way. But the second biggest thing that I've noticed is there's definitely like a loneliness shame. Like there's a very unspoken rule in our nomadic culture that if you're free, you can't also be lonely at the same time. If you're enjoying the beaches and, scaling mountains, how are you lonely? So people don't say it, which means they don't process it, which means they make decisions from inside of it instead of about it. So the decision to escalate too fast when someone is almost always in a loneliness decision gets dressed up as like a faded connection. It's just that you're looking for someone to latch onto. Like literally your nervous system is dependent on that, and it will scan and search for someone. But the thing is, our nervous system can't determine if that person's actually good for us or not. All they can tell is that that person is suppressing our nervous system because now we don't feel as lonely.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Because, even just going for dinner alone as a nomad or, the everyday things that we have to do, a lot of the time we are solo traveling, and those things are kind of hard to do on the day to day, every day. I get what you're saying, you're kind of like latching on, and then it's like this fated meeting with
Yeah.
someone, and like you're going to be soulmates and all this, and it's almost, I think we romanticize it in our heads almost.
Well, why would you not? When
Yeah.
everything else in your life that you romanticize is now coming true around you. You know,
Hmm.
it's it's very interesting on how our brains operate during this process because the third major point that I see is repetition blindness. So
Okay.
most nomads don't realize that they're recreating the same dynamic across continents or locations. And just that the people keep changing, like the cast keeps changing. So they think every new connection, excuse me, is a new story. But it's usually just the same story with a different cast.
Like season two, season
Yeah.
three.
And that's why the idea of like pattern is so important. Otherwise, you just keep repeating the same thing. But since you're in a different backdrop and landscape, you assume that it will be different, that you're different when you're not.
Damn, girl. You're throwing so much wisdom out here. Oh my
Happy to
gosh.
help.
No, that is crazy because it's so true. Your environment changes and you expect the people around you to change with that. But it's really you're still looking for the same things or attracting the same things or going after the same things, but just in a different place,
Yeah.
right?
And while at the same time you are changing and haven't been
Mhm.
able to clearly identify what those changes are, which like it's a domino effect in terms of all the things that it now alters in your life and the way that you approach things. Whether your career, your dating life, the way you treat your body, those
Mm.
are all different phases.
So interesting. So, one thing all the girlies always say is the guy's not emotionally available. He's just not, he's not there emotionally. He isn't ready to commit long term. He just wants a quick fling. I'm talking from a girl's perspective. I'm sure the guys have the same thing with the girls. But kind of what is your take on that from a nomad perspective?
Yes. Well, before I answer your question, I do just want to say when you're attracting emotionally unavailable people consistently, it's best to start looking at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, are you the emotionally available one or not? Like, are you actually emotionally available? Because if you keep attracting unavailable partners, it's mostly about yourself.
Mm.
But I do hear what the girlies are struggling about. I absolutely do. So I will get into it because it's not a stereotype. And it's almost a structural guarantee. Like, but that's why I like to set it up first. Like, always make sure that we're looking at ourselves first. But yes,
Mm.
there absolutely is a clean reason for why there's so many emotional unavailable men. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So there's three main reasons.
Okay.
Selection bias is the first, of course. Our lifestyle notoriously attracts people whose attachment systems already prefer distance due to the abundance of freedom. So the pull
People.
itself is skewed more towards avoidance before anyone has a chance to even truly get to know each other.
Exactly. Yeah, we're constantly moving, constantly leaving that situation as quickly as possible, whether it's the place we don't like or maybe the people.
Especially for the people that have the freedom that one little problem can arise and they leave instead of having to sit and work through it and work it out. And that's truly what's needed in terms to grow the emotional maturity that's truly needed to live a nomadic lifestyle. We're not kids out here. We can't pretend like we're Peter Pans and Wendy's. There's
We're
too
not
much
kids out here, guys. We're adults. We are grown up.
time. Exactly, please. It's time for us to grow up if we want this much freedom.
Yeah.
Because then we also have environmental reinforcement as like the second drive for all this emotional unavailability for men.
Okay.
So what happens is that even securely attached people like end up becoming more avoidant under chronic transition. So there's research actually from James Cohen from the University of Virginia, and he looked at co-regulation in the brain and how it literally offloads stress processing onto people it's bonded to. When you don't have stable people around you, your nervous system learns to handle that threat alone. And that's not your real personality. That's a trained response. And it ends up looking like avoidance. So you just became like hyper independent, is essentially what this is trying to say. And so, because of that independence, you're also incredibly guarded. And it's not something you intentionally do, it's a trained response to you having to handle so much on your own. And that's why I say we're not kids. We have to grow up and step into this lifestyle that requires a lot of responsibility.
And I see that often with the people in my community. Everyone is so hyper independent. They're on their own schedules, they have their own routine, they have their whole next 6 months planned, regardless of anyone that comes into their life. And
Mm-hmm.
I see there's a slight stubbornness to that as well. It's kind of like, well, this is my way, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I've set it out for me. And I can see that that could be tricky with the relationship coming into it.
Absolutely, because that to me that's the third layer of the emotionally unavailable lot that we're speaking towards because we also just don't know people's stories. We don't know what people are carrying. So, and for instance, the nomadic lifestyle attracts people that have left a great life to chase adventure, while
Yeah.
some are fresh out of a divorce and are just trying to remember who they are. Some are on a soul mission to find themselves. Some are really just on vacation, you know? And you also have to make sure that you are aware of the people that are running from something that may have been a dangerous past or maybe just trauma that they haven't even been able to name themselves yet. So you're meeting people at one chapter of their lives, but you haven't had a chance to read the whole book. You're just getting, like one single page. So when someone shows up as unavailable, it's almost never about you, is what I like to remind my clients. It's really just a story that you don't have access to.
You only get a snapshot of that person,
Mhm.
and sometimes we only meet like a person for a dinner, and we have to kind of create this idea about who they are and our perception of them in such a short space of time, and that kind of relays into how we see them as a potential partner as well. And we're only seeing that snapshot. So they, like you said, they're in different stories of their lives, different seasons. And I guess, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but finding someone that's in a similar season to you or someone that can help you in where you're at, like probably is conducive more to being in a relationship.
It is. And we have to always remember too that you don't have to be perfect or totally healed in order to attract a relationship. And that's part of the reason I got into this work is because I was going through traumatic experiences while attracting relationships. And those relationships ended up being toxic in themselves. And so if I would have had more background story about these individuals as well that I was connecting with, it would have been helpful. But what I had to do was just also stop placing blame on myself. Like the fix isn't hunting for emotionally available people only. They exist, of course, but the fix is tending towards your own availability, like tending to your own garden first, is what I think. With so much consistency that the right people are actually able to find you because it's all energy.
It's all energy and you got to do the work on yourself first.
Yeah, but you don't have to be perfect. That's what I just
Yeah.
want to always remind people. Like, you don't have to be like fully healed because part
Mm.
of what a relationship is necessary for is to be that mirror to help you heal. There's something you can't heal completely by yourself. You really can't.
Okay, so we're moving all the time. Some nomads are hopping from one spot to the next every week. Others like to slow mad, maybe 1 to 3 months in a place. Because this is such a weird lifestyle. You know, we say it's normal, but other people might be like, this is very non-traditional. What,
Yes.
you know what I mean? So how does this constant movement, changing time zones, different countries affect our psychological stability when it comes to dating?
I love this question so much because to me, this is like the core of what I do. Because honestly, our nervous system cannot tell the difference between adventure and instability. It just registers not safe yet. Like,
Okay,
yeah,
tell me more.
exactly. Like same for stress. Like if there's positive stress happening in your life while also negative stress is happening, all your body hears feels is stress. It's not able to decipher if it's good or bad. So a baseline most nomads don't realize is that they're living in chronic low grade dysregulation. Not panic, not crisis. just
We're not regulated people.
just a sustained low grade constant threat state, no big deal.
No, no biggie. It's fine. We're used to it.
Yeah, and it just comes from our body never being able to like truly settle because the
Mm,
environment never fully settles. And
yeah.
yeah, you can be having a great year and still be in this state is which most people just don't realize. So when your nervous system is at that baseline, it doesn't run discernment very well at all. It ends up running in two modes. Mild fight or flight, which makes you over select. Everything feels urgent, you escalate too fast, or just mid freeze, which makes you under select. Everything feels like too much. You bounce, and like neither of those work for dating. So
Ooh.
discernment is a regulated system function that we need. You cannot access it from a dysregulated body. And that's why in my system for CED is my method for approaching this. The E stands for emotional regulation, the D stands for discernment, and the C stands for clarity. But I'll get more into that later. But without having the emotional regulation, you cannot have a discernment.
I haven't thought of it like that because it's almost like fight or flight or freeze. And the fact that we're in chronic, what did you call it? What is it?
We're chronically dysregulated. A chronic
Chronically
dysregulation.
dysregulated. Okay.
A
That's
low
going to be my
grade,
main topic of conversation in my next
a
one.
chronic low grade dysregulated state.
Okay. And the first one you said is things can accelerate quite quickly
Hmm.
for some people. So I've been in this situation myself personally, and I know a lot of people have in the nomad space where you meet someone, things escalate real quick, you move in immediately, you're basically married. Things went real fast, and it's really interesting because you do feel really connected with the person really quickly. And it's hard to know, is this a real thing or is this just chemistry that's happening in the background and making us kind of fall in love real quick?
Yes. Oh, I love this question because this is part of the reason that I started off Nomad Love Lab with the survey. Because this is one of my main questions. What is the fastest amount of time that you've met someone and began traveling with them? So far, I think the last time I checked the stats, it was about 60, between 60 and 70% had done it within 48 hours. Yeah. But that's the type of data I really needed because then the next questions are, so are you still with that person? So like to truly understand the intensity behind this. So what I was able to discover is that intensity, I like to call it, it's the cheapest currency in modern dating because nomads have an unlimited supply of it. Like we love intensity, which is exactly why we confuse it for the real thing more than most of our friends or other demographics. Because here's the chemistry behind it. Okay. When time scarcity manufactures urgency, novelty floods the dopamine system. So a shared liminal state creates false intimacy. Same thing with texting too much. And you think you're getting to know someone over a dating app and you're just texting, false intimacy. So when two people feel groundless, so people who are groundless, we're nomads. We don't technically have a grounded state. Yeah, decide that the groundlessness between them means that they're meant for each other. And then you add in the boredom of like long day of travel and the relief of having a conversation that you think is really cool. And then you have a cocktail once you finally land and some more beers and the thing, it just keeps escalating and escalating. It has nothing to do with compatibility. The data you skip when this happens is all the boring data. And the boring data is the most important data. Like, how does this person handle stress when it's the opposite of exciting? How do they repair after a misunderstanding or argument? How do they treat you when there's no one else around? And you can't see these things in one bus trip or plane flight. And you can't see these things in 3 weeks. You can't see them really in 3 months. And 3 months is really enough time that we have available in the nomadic community, unless you are a slow nomad. I try to prescribe to my clients that there is a discipline to it. And if you do want a relationship, you need to slow down enough so that everything in your body, when it's telling you to speed up, you're able to tell it, no, slow down. It's okay. I mean, it's okay to slow down. I know that this person seems magical and that feeling is so great. But the more that we allow our nervous system to slow down and process and get to know that person, that's how we're able to collect the data. And that's how you get to learn about that person.
Yeah, that data is so important because having a lifelong partner, you need similar values, right? Interest, and all those things you mentioned. How do you react in different situations, and what is your compatibility? Not just this is really fun and the dopamine's hitting so hard and I'm feeling so good. That's
Yeah,
not true love. That's more a fling, right?
absolutely. Or even just taking time to understand each other's values. Like I remember being on a ferry about, let's see, we're probably 2 or 3 months into our relationship at that time. Of course, started very quickly.
Mm.
And I remember us being on a ferry on our way to Koh Lanta. And we got into like a little tiff. I can't remember exactly what it was, but somehow it came up that he does not consider us to be a team. And I was like, wait, you don't consider our relationship, like us two, to be a team together? And he's like, that's not how I view relationships at all. And so, interesting enough, of course, we kept dating, lessons to be learned. But things like that from the very beginning, yeah, just really taking the time to get to know someone on more than the surface. Like, oh, we like the same kind of music, oh, we like the same kind of vacation spots. We've been in the same places. Like you have to go deeper than that. And a lot of people like to. You just have to give yourself space to.
Space and time, and asking those hard questions, I think, is really important. So, I've had tons of people in my community that are super successful, highly functioning professionals. They CEOs, they have everything going for them. But one thing I do notice, a lot of them struggle with relationships. And why do you think that people, well, nomads, are falling flat, even though they're so successful in other parts of their lives?
Oh, I love this question too. I'm very much part of the AI and tech community. We're actually
Cool.
in the process of building out an app. So I will explain this in an operating system theory since we are speaking to professionals that would most likely understand this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way I like to think about it is that our operating system that was built for our careers is the wrong operating system for love, for dating. And nobody really tells us that we need to switch. So when there's two operating systems at play and they don't translate, we need to take a step back and see what they are. So the career OS, it provides rewards, control, optimization, certainty, hustle, outcome focus, it's to get the results. Engineer the path. This is easy. We can put this on a cycle. Reduce the roadblocks and the variables. We all know how to scale this out. If if that's, how your brain operates or your
Yeah.
career operates. And that operating system is also built their career. It's built their company, it's built their portfolio, their life abroad, and it's absolutely not wrong. We need this, but it's just not specific enough to the love OS, which rewards almost the opposite of the career OS. So it requires surrender, presence, uncertainty, tolerance, slowness, process focus. You
Wow.
can't engineer your way through being understood by someone else. You can't optimize intimacy. You can't hustle someone into trusting you. I mean, you can do all of those things, but that's not healthy. And we usually call us
Yeah,
for
that ain't healthy.
basis. Yeah. And yeah, so I would like to just say that anyone that's faking it in that regard just feels terribly anyway.
You can build a career from learning and building skills and optimizing, but you can't create authenticity
Hmm.
like you would building a business. You just have to be vulnerable and open up and be yourself. And like you said, surrender. I really like that word. And I
Yeah.
think people that are in business are they're just so used to showing up as this on person that knows everything, that's solid, got everything sorted, and they've never made a mistake.
Because
And
that's their
then when
job
you,
as well,
yeah,
to handle everything and be in control.
have that responsibility all the time.
Hmm.
But being in a relationship, it's like a give and take, and you have to be more vulnerable. And yeah, such an interesting way of looking at it, the career OS versus the love OS. So we
Yeah.
need to find an equality. They need to kind of be 50-50 or try and figure out a way to tap into the OS on the love side.
Yeah, and realize that dating is also if you need to, because that's the way that your brain operates, you can think about it like a project, but it is not a project. It really isn't. We have to switch gears. And, in the business world, we speak so much about taking risk, but yet people are being vulnerable and surrendering. That's risk taking that people are still too nervous sometimes to take when it comes to their hearts.
Yeah. And I think it's that guarded nature that you mentioned earlier that, kind of a bit of an avoidant mentality that also adds to that as well from the nomad side potentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it all really is connected together. And that's why it really requires so much responsibility and self-awareness and constant self-assessment.
We got a lot of work to do. That's
I know there's people that prefer to date, based on the country that they're living in, the locals there. Others prefer to date other nomads. For me, particularly, I've noticed that it's best for me to date other nomads so that these conversations are easier to have
yeah.
compared to a local who's just nervous that you're going to leave them in general. They don't understand all these other layers that are underneath that also need to be examined.
You share that relatability on your lifestyle and outlook for sure. So when I was single, I was on those dating apps and they felt super toxic, especially as a nomad. And I think when I was talking to friends, we were like, no, dating is broken, the apps have ruined everything, and it's all the app's fault. So, what is your take on dating apps and how they contribute to dating as a nomad?
Oh my goodness. So I will try to condense my view down to be as simple as possible because it's very loaded. Because I have worked in this industry for several years now as a professional matchmaker, working for dating apps as well. And dating apps were designed to have to keep you on there. They were not designed to be deleted. So I just like to start with that. Hopefully that doesn't get me sued.
I've heard about this. I've heard about this.
I don't like to traditionally blame the apps only or the dating pool only. I think there's a different reason for the real root behind modern dating fatigue. And it's that everyone's looking at the same symptom, but almost no one's looking at what the users are actually lacking. Like people using these things or
Yeah.
experiencing these things. So there's three different clarity gaps that cover almost all of it. And the first one is that people just don't know what they actually want. And so they think they know what they want, what their friends and family approve of, what looks good on paper. That's all not the same thing versus what you want. The second thing is that they don't actually know what they can offer. They know what their resume looks like and their dating profile looks like, and they know what they want, but they don't actually know what they can truly bring to a relationship. Unless you've truly done enough self-assessment on yourself to know like what stage you're at. How do you know if you even would be a good boyfriend or girlfriend? You know?
Yeah,
And the
for sure.
third, yeah. And the third is that people don't know what pattern they keep recreating as well. So
Mm.
they keep treating every new connection like a new story, when usually it's the same story just being repeated with different cast members. So when you're dating with those gaps, every decision is a guess. And guessing for years is exhausting. And
Yeah,
that's why there's fatigue. It's not from doing too much, it's from doing too much of the same thing without any clarity. So clarity comes in, that the C in my CED. Once the clarity comes in, that fatigue lifts. And you can stop wasting your time repeating the same cycles and start saying to people who can actually meet you where you're at.
yeah, and I think that would be such a relief for people. So many girls in my friendship groups over the time have said, "I'm taking a break from dating. I'm tired.
Which is good.
I'm done with it," because it's a lot, you know?
Mhm. I absolutely recommend breaks. I think that's extremely healthy. It's
Yeah.
not good for your nervous system to keep putting yourself back out there without allowing yourself to process what you just went through and grieve.
And talking about kind of regulating ourselves, I think we mentioned how hard it is already to be regulated as a nomad in general. What is something that we can do to emotionally regulate ourselves as nomads when we look at dating?
Yeah, so sense stability for us is not a place, it's a relationship we have with ourselves. So, it really being able to develop routines with your nervous system is the one thing you can carry across all borders, you know? You just need like three things and they can all exist independently. They don't have to be dependent on a location or any partner. You can be single or with someone. All you need is yourself. The first variety of things you can do to help support your nervous system is breath work, do body scans, just slow movement, stretching. If you're a male, cold exposure. I've heard recent studies that that's not good for females, so that's why
Yeah, I've heard that too, actually. Yeah.
yeah. So long walks, spending time in nature, just going and sitting and watching the water. Your nervous, whatever your nervous system does like and responds to, that's something you can do from any location or any apartment, any hotel room, any time zone. Doesn't matter. It can be 5 minutes, 20 minutes, but make sure they're non-negotiable part of your life. Make sure that's very much a core.
Love that.
Yeah. So then the second thing that you really need a human anchor. So the human anchor is yeah, someone that knows you fairly well. If they can know you deeply, that's great. But if it's just someone you recently connected with that you trust, that will work as well. But someone that you can be yourself with. And most nomads kind of underestimate how valuable this is, having someone that knows you. Because you're going to need this person during all the good and the bad to kind of keep you in check, to be like, hey, you don't sound like your usual self.
Besties.
Yeah, I really do. And even if
Okay.
it's like, your mom or your brothers or somebody. And then the third thing, the identity anchor. So something you do that has nothing to do with where you are or who you're with. Whether it's a creative practice, a ritual, writing down your values, journaling. It's just a thing that reminds you who you are when everything around you is shifting. Just to like be, I know who I am. And when people try to kind of throw you off course, because they will, you can always come back to that identity anchor.
I love that third one for me. I don't do that. I don't give myself enough time to journal or kind of have that self-care. But I like that it's called an identity anchor because it's just kind of reconnecting with yourself and yeah, just kind of understanding what you need and want every day and just making sure you remember that. So,
Yeah, especially when there's just so many influences around us all the time. It's just really important for us to know who we are and who we want to be, our values.
okay, the next question might be a little controversial because we talk about dating, but are there any AI tools that people can use to understand dating better or human relationships or anything like that?
Of course there are. And like I know it's super controversial, but I went ahead and made my own guidebook for this. People are going to use AI to help them with their dating lives, whether they're going to admit it or not. I mean, people have admitted. We've seen it all over TikTok and Instagram how people are admitting that they're using AI as their therapist. And no, I get it. Like at 2 a.m., sometimes you're frustrated, you're stressed, and you want answers.
Mm.
And in 2026, we no longer have as much patience when it comes to waiting for answers. So, yeah, I went ahead and helped out and built two things to help with this.
Okay, let's hear it. I'm excited.
So, there's two things, and they both work together. The entry point is free, so you can start by going to my website and taking my CED assessment. It's 12 questions, it only takes 3 minutes, and at the end of it, you'll be able to walk away with your dating archetype. Yeah, are you an intense connector? Are you a steady discerner? Are you a guarded independent? Are you an analytical overthinker? Those are the 4 archetypes I built. And then that archetype is the name for the pattern you've been living without being able to have a language for. And once you have that language, you can have leverage. I love that. You can't change what you can't see, right? So most people have never seen themselves named accurately. So head on over to my website to take the CED assessment for free, and it'll give you your archetype. And then I then follow up with a few different emails to help you better understand your archetype and what you can do with it. But the next layer is for people who actually use AI in their dating life intentionally. I created a 56-page guide called How to Train Your AI Dating Coach. Very savvy, I know. Straight to the point. Here's the problem it solves is that because as a dating coach and dating and relationship expert myself, of course, I was using these tools to see how they were working. And it's just generic AI doesn't understand that our nomadic lifestyle. It assumes that you're in one city, one culture, one time zone, one relationship structure. That's not our lifestyle. So it's not understanding what you're dating across cultures or all those little nuances.
Yeah.
So when you ask ChatGPT now, without my guide, about a date you had in Bali with someone from Sao Paulo while your friend group is in New York, and you're just getting advice from everyone that is not involved with where you actually live or experiencing the things you're experiencing. So the advice, even from your friends, is sometimes not as helpful. So I get why people are using AI. So what I've created in the guide, it walks you through building your master prompt, and it's just giving any of your AI tools, whether that's Claude or ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, it's giving them real context about how you specifically date, your patterns, your nervous system, your cultural context. So when you do come back to it at 2 a.m. looking for a little help, it's not reflecting back generic answers back to you. It's actually reflecting you back to you. I've kind of installed a mirror. Because right now with ChatGPT, it wants to just give you answers and reassurance
Yeah.
without asking more questions. So
Yeah.
mine just keeps asking those questions back to you. And of course, if you want to use it as a tool to, hey, I'm not quite understanding how to respond to this message, we'll walk you through, well, first of all, what do you think is blocking you from just knowing how to respond to this message? What is the anxiety or what is the concern that's getting in the way? Let's address that first. And once you address that, then you can respond to the message without needing AI to write it for you. But it can if you need it to. So those are live at Nomad Love Lab.
And it's just a really nice way for people to have the support they need in like a kind of low touch way, but then have it in very kind of like it's very contextual. So it's really aligned to them personally. That's really important, I think.
Absolutely, because the more that we're using these tools, the better that we understand how to use them toward our benefit. That's how they can be towards an advantage. And right now, it's spitting out terrible advice. Like if you mention anything about a potential red flag, it's like, oh, yeah, red flag. And it's like, wait, that's
Yeah.
actually like kind of more yellow green. But like because of the way you phrase the input, the
Mm.
response is just mirroring back to you what it thinks it wants you to hear.
It sounds like you built something that's really intentional, that's got the individual in mind, and is really thinking about how is this going to help someone that's a nomad specifically in the dating scene. And yeah, I'm very, very excited to check it out. So, how do people do that? If they want to get in touch with you or they want to go download these things, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can just head on over to nomadlovelab.com and the CED dating assessment is right there at the top. You can go ahead and take that for free. And then if you scroll on down further down the page, you'll see the AI dating guide, the how to train your AI guide. And then a little teaser for what's to come. Stay tuned. The beta launch, like the beta testing date is July 7th. I have been co-building an app where, oh my God, it's called My Future Husband. And
Okay.
what you get to do is it's going beyond surface level. So we're taking a few different ideas that we're seeing people being gravitated towards right now, which is people wanting to like sketch their future husband. I'm seeing a lot of those ads on YouTube and I'm like, what is that about? So what we're able to do is you answer 18 questions, but they're quick. And it helps me to understand who you are and what it is that you're looking for in a relationship. And then giving me a little tidbits about physically or mentally what you're looking for in a partner. And then we're able to now craft a few different ideas of what we think this man, this future husband might look like for you. And at the same time, you're also able to take a photo of yourself and our system will scan it and provides you with a plan. Because what's happening here is we're providing you with an example of your future husband. But when you took that little questionnaire, it was actually for me to get your dating, what we call a DMB, your dating metric score. So what's your dating score? So if the man you have envisioned is an 8.5, but you're sitting over here at 6.2, I've now given you an external and internal roadmap for how to elevate your dating score to actually get more aligned with the type of men that you're wanting to attract.
Very interesting.
It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to also be incredibly knowledgeable where I think this is going to be really big and I really hope
Yeah.
it's something that people really love. A lot of heart and soul and true intention and science everything is going into this. It's not one of those just, gimmicky apps. Like this is major.
Well, I
Yeah.
think all the girlies out there are definitely going to want to download My Future Husband. Because who
Yeah,
wouldn't want to know what that looks like? You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
So,
and yeah, when I
yeah.
talk about it with my co-founder, I'm like, the idea is also I'm not trying to create the exact man. So now you're walking around with this image, like where is he? Even though we have built in a location finder, because based off of the type of, male archetype he is, he's also can be in certain locations, in certain areas, certain communities. So I'm really trying to do everything possible to help people that are really looking for support, trying to find love. I know there's a loneliness epidemic out here. I'm just trying to help be that glue. And then, of course, I do one-on-one private coaching if people are open to that as well, too.
Well, it sounds like you are creating love as you go, and more people are going to find that while working with you and using your apps. I'm going to check these out. Well, thank you so much, Alissha, for your time and for spreading the love and helping people connect. I think what you're doing is beautiful, and the applications and products you're building sound super exciting. So I'm sure we're going to follow along for your journey.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, check me out at nomadlovelab.com and at Alissha goes there on Instagram if you'd like to follow me there too. And the podcast will be relaunching soon here. So yeah,
I'll link all of it down below so you guys can connect with Alissha. And thanks so much for jumping on here and being part of the Work Wondrous community. We'll see you somewhere in the world soon.